Admiral Krethos stood on the command bridge of the Imperial dreadnought Eternal Glory, his scales gleaming under the soft blue lights. Through the massive viewport, the stars of the Selnari system burned like distant fires. He had served the Valorian Empire for 60 standard cycles, and in all that time, he had never questioned the natural order of things. The Valorians ruled because they were meant to rule. It was simply the way of the universe. The Selnari rebels had been troublesome lately, attacking supply convoys and hiding in the asteroid fields. But they would fall, just like all the others. The Empire had crushed 1,000 rebellions before. This would be no different. Admiral, we are detecting unusual readings near the Barrier Nebula, said Lieutenant Jex Nal from the sensor station. The young officer's voice carried a hint of concern. Krethos turned his large head toward the lieutenant. Define unusual. Multiple energy signatures, sir. They appeared suddenly, approximately 47 in total. They are massive, larger than anything in our database. Jex Nal's clawed fingers moved across the control panel. Wait, sir. They are gone. All signatures have disappeared. Krethos walked to the sensor station and examined the readings himself. The data made no sense. Energy signatures that large should be impossible to hide. They would leave trails, residual radiation, something. But the screens showed nothing but empty space and the swirling gases of the nebula. System malfunction, Krethos decided. Run a full diagnostic on all sensor arrays. Report any findings directly to me. Yes, Admiral, Jex Nal replied. Though he looked unconvinced, Krethos returned to his command chair. The Empire's technology was the finest in the galaxy. A sensor glitch was far more likely than phantom warships appearing and vanishing at will. He dismissed the incident from his mind and focused on the patrol route ahead. Far away, on the throne world of Valor Prime, the High Council gathered in their ancient chamber. The room was enormous, built to remind all who entered of the Empire's power and permanence. Crystalline pillars stretched toward a ceiling lost in shadow. The council members sat in a circle, each one a veteran of centuries of rule. High Chancellor Morvek called the session to order with a strike of his ceremonial staff. We have received reports from the outer sectors. Admiral Krethos detected unusual sensor readings near Selnari. Several other commanders have reported similar incidents. Sensor malfunctions, said Councillor Hex Ara dismissively. The equipment in those regions is old. We should allocate resources for upgrades. Perhaps, Morvek said slowly. But there is another matter that requires our attention. The humans have requested an audience. Several council members made sounds of annoyance. Councillor Vexthar spoke up, his voice dripping with disdain. The humans again? What do those primitives want now? More technology they cannot properly understand? More time to pay their tribute? The humans were a recent addition to the Empire's long list of protectorate species. 50 cycles ago, Valorian scouts had discovered their world, a small blue planet called Earth, tucked away in an unremarkable arm of the galaxy. The humans had barely mastered their own solar system. Their weapons were crude chemical rockets and early plasma cannons. Their ships could not even break the light barrier. The Empire had offered them the standard choice: join as a protectorate or face subjugation. The humans had accepted protectorate status without resistance. They paid their tribute on time, allowed Valorian observers in their space, and seemed content to remain under Imperial oversight. They were weak, short-lived creatures who accepted their place in the natural order. Their ambassador wishes to discuss trade agreements, Morvek explained. Something about mineral rights and technology exchanges. Let them wait, Vexthar said. We have more important matters to address. The Selnari rebellion must be crushed, and the Draxian consortium is becoming troublesome on the eastern border. The council murmured in agreement. The humans were an afterthought, barely worth the time it took to discuss them. They posed no threat and offered little of value beyond raw materials and tribute payments. What the council did not know was that the human ambassador was not coming to discuss trade. Ambassador Marcus Webb sat in his quarters aboard the diplomatic vessel, reviewing files and reports. His face was calm, but his eyes held a sharp intelligence that his Valorian hosts had consistently underestimated. For 50 years, humanity had played the role of grateful subjects. They had bowed and scraped, paid their tribute with smiles, and allowed Valorian inspectors to tour their facilities. But every inspection had been carefully staged. Every technology demonstration had been precisely calculated to show weakness while hiding strength. In the darkness between stars, in the cold void where Valorian scouts never ventured, humanity had been building. Massive automated shipyards orbited dead stars, powered by fusion reactors that the Valorians believed humans could barely construct. Asteroid mining operations stripped entire belts of resources, feeding the hungry maws of construction facilities. Human engineers had taken Valorian technology and torn it apart, analyzing every component, understanding every principle. Then they had improved it. Human scientists had studied every war in galactic history, learning from the mistakes and victories of species long dead. Human strategists had planned for this moment since the day the first Valorian ship had appeared in Earth's sky. Marcus Webb closed the last file and stood. In 72 hours, the galaxy would learn the truth about humanity. The Valorians thought they knew what humans were capable of. They were about to discover how wrong they had been. In the void near the Barrier Nebula, hidden in the folds of space that Valorian sensors could not penetrate, the human fleet waited. 200 warships hung in perfect silence, their crews at battle stations, their weapons systems charged and ready. Admiral Sarah Chen sat in the command chair of the UEHF Indomitable, watching the chronometer count down. The age of Valorian dominance was about to end. Admiral Kratos was reviewing supply reports when every alarm on the bridge activated at once. The sudden noise made several officers jump from their stations. Red warning lights bathed the command deck in crimson. "Report!" Kratos shouted, his training taking over despite the shock. Lieutenant Jexanal stared at his sensor display as if it had betrayed him. "Admiral, we have multiple contacts. They just appeared around us. I count 214 vessels, all of them capital ship class or larger." "That is impossible," Kratos said. But even as the words left his mouth, he saw the truth on the main view screen. Ships surrounded his fleet. They were unlike anything he had ever seen. Sleek and angular with hull plating that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They bristled with weapon ports and launch bays. Each one was easily the size of a Valorian heavy cruiser. "Where did they come from?" Kratos demanded. "How did they bypass our sensors?" "Unknown, sir. They simply appeared. No jump signatures, no hyperspace portals. They were just suddenly there." Jexnal's voice cracked slightly. A communication request flashed on the screen. Kratos hesitated, then accepted it. A human face appeared before him. It was a female with dark hair pulled back tightly, her expression calm and professional. Her eyes were the color of Earth's sky, and they held no fear. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Hegemonic Fleet, commanding officer of the UEHF Indomitable." "To whom am I speaking?" 1. Kratos drew himself up to his full height. "I am Admiral Kratos of the Valorian Imperial Navy. You are in violation of Imperial space. Power down your weapons immediately and prepare to be boarded." Chen's expression did not change. "Admiral Kratos, I am hereby informing you that humanity is withdrawing from the Valorian Protectorate. Effective immediately. We claim sovereignty over 47 star systems, including the Selnari system you currently occupy. You and your fleet have 30 minutes to withdraw beyond the boundary we have transmitted to you." For a moment, Kratos could only stare. Then anger flooded through him. "You dare threaten the Valorian Empire? You are primitives playing with technology you barely understand. I have served the Empire for 60 cycles. I have crushed rebellions that fielded more ships than you have shown me today." 30 minutes, Admiral," Chen said simply. Kratos cut the communication. He turned to his weapons officer. Target the human flagship. All ships are to open fire on my command. We will show these upstarts what happens when they challenge the Empire. Sir. Perhaps we should contact High Command first, suggested Commander Telvan. From the tactical station. There is no time for bureaucracy, Kratos snapped. These humans need to learn their place. All ships, open fire. The Valorian fleet unleashed its fury. Plasma cannons erupted in brilliant streams of superheated matter. Missile pods launched their payloads, hundreds of warheads streaking toward the human ships. Energy beams lanced through space, weapons that could slice through asteroid fields like knives through flesh. The humans responded with impossible speed. Shimmering barriers appeared around their vessels. Energy shields unlike anything in Valorian technology. The plasma fire splashed harmlessly against them, dispersing like water on stone. Missiles exploded against the shields, their fury absorbed and dissipated. Then the human ships fired back. The sound that reached Kratos through the hull was like thunder. Human railguns, massive magnetic accelerators, launched projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. The metal slugs, each one weighing several tons, punched through Valorian shields as if they did not exist. They tore through armor plating, ripped through internal compartments, and emerged from the other side of ships in fountains of debris and atmosphere. Shields at 40%, shouted the defense officer. We have hull breaches on decks. 7 through 12. But worse was yet to come. Launch bays on the human ships opened, and swarms emerged. Thousands upon thousands of small craft poured into space, moving with perfect coordination. They were drones, automated fighters that required no pilots, no life support, no rest. They surrounded Valorian ships like insects, overwhelming point defense systems through sheer numbers. The eternal glory shook under repeated impacts. Kratos gripped his command chair as the lights flickered. On the tactical display, he watched his fleet dying. Ships that had served the Empire for centuries were being torn apart in minutes. His cruisers, his destroyers, his proud warriors, all helpless before this human onslaught. Shields at 10%. We have lost engines 3 and 4. Weapons array is offline. The reports came faster than Kratos could process them. Another communication request appeared. With a trembling claw, Kratos accepted it. Admiral Chen appeared again, her expression unchanged. Admiral Kratos, I am offering you a choice. Order your remaining ships to power down their weapons and surrender, or I will destroy what is left of your fleet. You have 2 minutes to decide. Kratos looked at the tactical display. Of his original 37 ships, only 12 remained combat-capable. The rest were destroyed or crippled beyond repair. His warriors had fought bravely, but bravery meant nothing against such overwhelming technological superiority. He had 2 choices: save what remained of his fleet, or die for pride. The decision was clear, even if it burned his soul to make it. Human fleet, this is Admiral Kratos. We surrender. The human drones pulled back, forming a perimeter around the Valorian ships, but not pressing their advantage. Kratos slumped in his chair, feeling every one of his 60 cycles of service weighing upon him. He had just become the first Valorian admiral in recorded history to surrender to a supposedly primitive species. News of the battle reached Valor Prime within hours. High Chancellor Morvek stood before the emergency session of the High Council, his hands shaking as he read the report. Kratos's fleet has been defeated. The humans have claimed sovereignty over 47 systems and have the military force to enforce that claim. Our scouts report massive industrial complexes in deep space, shipyards that we never detected, fleets that we never knew existed. Councillor Vexthar's voice was hollow. How? How is this possible? 50 cycles ago, they could barely leave their own planet. We underestimated them, Morvek said quietly. While we believed they were primitive and weak, they were studying us, learning from us, building in secret. The council chamber fell silent. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Valorian Empire faced an enemy that had defeated them, not through numbers or luck, but through superior technology and strategy. The age of unquestioned dominance had ended in a single afternoon. Ambassador Marcus Webb walked through the halls of the Galactic Congress building with steady, measured steps. Around him, representatives from dozens of species whispered and pointed. Some looked at him with hope, others with fear, most with simple disbelief. The Congress chamber was ancient, built when the Valorian Empire was young. It was meant to give protectorate species a voice, though everyone knew the truth. The Congress had no real power. It existed to create the illusion of democracy, while the Valorians made all actual decisions. Today, that was about to change. Marcus took his place at the speaking platform. Above him, hundreds of representatives sat in tiered seating that circled the chamber. The Valorian delegation occupied the highest tier, their positions literally and symbolically above all others. High Chancellor Morvek sat in the center, his face carved from stone. "The floor recognizes Ambassador Webb of Humanity," announced the session moderator, a thin creature from the Pelian species. Marcus activated the holographic display. Images appeared above the platform, visible to everyone in the chamber. They showed human shipyards, massive structures floating in the void, construction facilities that stretched for kilometers, mining operations that had stripped entire asteroid belts. For 50 years, the Valorian Empire has believed humanity to be a primitive species, barely worthy of notice. This was by design. We wanted you to believe we were weak. We needed you to underestimate us. Morvek stood. You deceived us. You violated the terms of your protectorate status. We survived, Marcus corrected. When your scouts arrived at Earth, we faced a choice. We could fight with the primitive weapons we had and be destroyed, or we could buy time. We chose time. He changed the display. Now, it showed human engineers working on Valorian technology, taking it apart piece by piece. Every technology sample you gave us, we studied. Every inspection you conducted, we learned from. You believed we were grateful subjects learning from our betters. The truth is, we were students learning everything we could about our captors. A representative from the Kelthian species called out, "But how did you advance so quickly? 50 cycles is nothing. Species typically need centuries to make such leaps." Marcus smiled slightly. Humans have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. We knew we were on a timer. Eventually, the Empire would demand more from us, or they would discover our true capabilities. We had to be ready before that happened. He gestured to the display again. Human scientists worked around the clock. We built quantum computers that could model and test theories in virtual space before we ever built physical prototypes. We used artificial intelligence to accelerate research, running millions of simulations simultaneously. We took risks that more cautious species would never accept. "And when you made mistakes?" asked a Draxian representative. "We learned from them quickly," Marcus said. "We lost 3 entire shipyards to accidents in the early years. Thousands of workers died. But each failure taught us what not to do. Each success was built on the sacrifices of those who came before." The chamber fell silent. The cost Marcus described was staggering, but so were the results. Marcus continued. "We also studied history. Every war the galaxy has ever recorded, we analyzed. Every tactical doctrine, every strategic theory, every success and failure of every species that has ever fought. We learned from your mistakes. We learned from your victories. And we designed our military to counter specifically what the Valorian Empire could field." Morvek's voice was cold. "You planned to rebel from the beginning. We planned to survive from the beginning," Marcus corrected. Rebellion was simply the form survival had to take. The Empire does not allow true independence. Protectorate status is just a gentler word for conquest. A small representative from the Filari species, barely visible in her seat, spoke up. Her voice was timid, but clear. Does humanity intend to replace the Valorian Empire? Will you become the new masters? This the by, insepented. VR tensis, N1. N1. VR10. VR10. It was the question everyone wanted answered. The chamber held its breath. Marcus turned to face the small representative directly. No. Humanity seeks independence, not dominion. We fight to free ourselves, not to enslave others. We are not your new masters. We are your potential allies. He changed the display once more. Now, it showed a document. Text, written in multiple languages. This is the Galactic Concordat. A proposed alliance of free and equal species. No single species holds authority over others. Decisions are made by vote, not decree. Trade is negotiated fairly, not demanded as tribute. Military forces are defensive, not tools of conquest. The chamber erupted in conversation. Some species representatives cheered, others argued. The Valorians sat in stony silence. Morvek finally spoke, his voice cutting through the noise. You speak of equality and freedom, but you enforce your will with weapons. You are no different than the empire you claim to oppose. There is one critical difference. Marcus said. We are willing to leave. Any species that wishes to remain aligned with the Valorian Empire may do so. We will not force anyone to join the Concordat. But any species that wishes to claim independence, we will support. And any species that the Empire attempts to punish for seeking freedom, we will defend. End quote. Another Valorian council member stood. You threaten the Empire with war if we do not surrender our sovereignty over hundreds of systems, over species that have been part of the Empire for millennia. I threaten nothing, Marcus said calmly. I state facts. Humanity has the military power to enforce independence for ourselves and others. Whether that power is used for defense or offense depends entirely on the Empire's next actions. Morvek's eyes narrowed. You believe one victory makes you invincible? Admiral Krathos commanded a patrol fleet. Not the full might of the Empire. We can field 2,000 warships, warriors who have trained for centuries. Your trick will not work twice. Marcus met his gaze without flinching. Then, I suppose we will discover who is correct. But I would ask you to consider this. In 50 years, we went from barely reaching our own moon to defeating an Imperial fleet with ease. What do you think we will accomplish in the next 50 years? Or the next 100? Can you say with certainty that the Empire will still exist by then? It was a bold statement, bordering on arrogance. But the evidence was displayed for all to see. Human shipyards that rivaled anything the Empire possessed. Technology that had surpassed Valorian designs. A species that had proven they could adapt and innovate at speeds the galaxy had never witnessed. The session ended without resolution, but the seed had been planted. As Marcus left the chamber, several representatives approached him quietly, asking questions about the Concordat, about humanity's intentions, about the possibility of freedom. On Valor Prime, the High Council convened in emergency session. Morvek looked at his fellow council members, seeing his own uncertainty reflected in their faces. We must respond, said Councillor Vexthar. If we do nothing, other species will follow humanity's example. The Empire will fracture. We must respond with overwhelming force, agreed another council member. The Grand Armada must be mobilized. We will crush the humans and remind the galaxy why the Valorian Empire has endured for 10,000 years. Morvek nodded slowly. He did not fully believe humanity could be crushed as easily as his colleagues suggested, but what choice did they have? To do nothing was to admit defeat. The Empire's reputation was built on the certainty of its dominance. That certainty had been shaken. It had to be restored. Summon Grand Admiral Velshara, Morvek commanded. Tell her to prepare the Grand Armada for deployment. The humans want war. We will give them a war they will never forget. Grand Admiral Velshara stood on the bridge of the Imperial flagship Eternal Dominion, the largest warship ever constructed by the Valorian Empire. Around her ship, stretching in every direction, floated 2,000 vessels, battleships, carriers, cruisers, destroyers, and support craft. It was the Grand Armada, the accumulated military might of 10,000 years of empire. No force in galactic history had ever stood against such power and survived. "All ships report ready for battle, Grand Admiral," said her second-in-command, Commander Rixtal. Velshara studied the tactical display. They had entered the Tartarus Expanse, a region of space twisted by gravitational anomalies. Black holes and neutron stars dotted the area, creating unpredictable gravity wells and spatial distortions. It was dangerous territory. But Velshara had chosen it carefully. "The humans rely on their technology," she had explained to the High Council before departure. "Their ships are fast and maneuverable. But in the Tartarus Expanse, they cannot use those advantages. The gravitational distortions will limit their mobility. We will force them to fight on our terms." It was sound strategy, the kind that had made Velshara the Empire's most respected military leader. She had studied the battle reports from Admiral Krethos's defeat obsessively. The humans had superior shields, superior weapons, and those cursed drones. But no technology could overcome the fundamental laws of physics. In the Expanse, fancy maneuvering meant nothing. It would be a battle of raw firepower. And the Grand Armada had firepower to spare. "Grand Admiral, sensors detect the human fleet ahead," reported the sensor officer. "I count 312 vessels." Velshara allowed herself a small smile. The humans had brought more ships than they had used against Krethos, but it was still nothing compared to the Grand Armada. Battle formation, Omega. All ships are to advance at steady pace. Target their command ships first. I want that Admiral Chen captured or killed within the first hour. The Armada moved forward like a tide of metal and energy. The human fleet waited, seemingly small and vulnerable in comparison. Through the view screen, Velshara could see them clearly now. Those strange, angular ships that had humiliated Krethos. "In range in 30 seconds, Grand Admiral." Velshara raised her hand. "All ships, prepare to fire on my mark." The seconds ticked down. 20, 10, 5, fire. The Grand Armada unleashed hell itself. 2,000 ships fired simultaneously, their combined firepower enough to sterilize planets. Space lit up with plasma streams, energy beams, and missile contrails. It was beautiful in a terrible way. The full fury of the Empire made visible. The human shields appeared, those shimmering barriers that had protected them before. But this time, the sheer volume of fire began to overwhelm them. Shield sections flickered and failed under the sustained assault. Human ships took damage. Armor plating, vaporizing. Hull breaches appearing. "We are breaking through their defenses," shouted Rixtal triumphantly. Velshara watched carefully. Something felt wrong. The humans were taking damage, yes, but they were not retreating. They were not panicking. They simply held position, returning fire with their railguns, but making no attempt to maneuver or flee. "Grand Admiral, I am detecting unusual gravitational fluctuations around the fleet," said the sensor officer. Her voice carried concern. Before Velshara could respond, space itself seemed to twist. Objects appeared near the Armada, thousands of them, small and dark. At first, Velshara thought they were more drones. Then her tactical officer identified them. Gravity mines. They are artificial singularities. The devices activated. Each mine created a localized gravitational distortion. Small black holes that existed for only seconds, but generated massive tidal forces. Valorian ships caught near the mines were torn apart, their hulls stressed beyond any tolerance. Entire formations broke apart as artificial gravity wells pulled ships off course, sending them tumbling into each other or into the natural hazards of the expanse. "Evasive maneuvers," Velshara commanded, but it was already too late. The Armada's tight formation, designed to maximize firepower, had become a death trap. Ships collided with each other trying to avoid the gravity mines. Point defense systems, designed to shoot down missiles, were useless against weapons that bent space itself. Then the real attack began. The human fleet that Velshara had been fighting suddenly accelerated, their movements impossibly precise even in the treacherous gravity field. They had been holding back, studying how the Armada moved, learning the patterns. Now, they struck with surgical precision, but worse was coming. Velshara's blood turned cold as her sensors registered new contacts. Thousands of them, appearing all around the Armada. Human ships, hidden somehow until this moment, activating from stealth mode. How many? Velshara demanded. The sensor officer's voice shook. Over 4,000 ships. Grand Admiral. The 300 we saw were just the forward element. The rest were hidden in the gravity wells, using the natural interference to mask their presence. Velshara understood instantly. She had walked into a trap. The humans had not come to fight fairly. They had used her own strategy against her, luring the Grand Armada into the expanse and then springing an ambush. The battle she had planned, the straightforward contest of firepower, had never existed. It had been a human deception from the start. The Eternal Dominion shook as human railgun fire pounded its shields. Around them, the Grand Armada was being systematically dismantled. Human drones swarmed damaged ships, finishing them off. Human warships worked in coordinated groups, focusing fire to overwhelm shields and tear through armor. Shields at 30%, reported the defense officer. We have lost contact with Battle Group 7 and Battle Group 12. Velshara watched the tactical display with a strange calm. She had been a warrior for over a century. She knew defeat when she saw it. The humans had outplanned her, outmaneuvered her, and now they were destroying her fleet. The Grand Armada, symbol of Valorian might, was being defeated just as thoroughly as Krathos's patrol fleet had been. A communication request appeared. Admiral Chen, no doubt, coming to offer terms. Velshara considered ignoring it, dying with her ship and her honor intact. But that would be selfish. Thousands of warriors still lived on the ships around her. Did she have the right to sentence them to death for her pride? She accepted the communication. Admiral Chen appeared on screen, her expression serious, but not triumphant. Grand Admiral Velshara, I am offering you the same terms I offered Admiral Krathos. Order your ships to stand down and withdraw, and I will allow you to leave with minimal further losses. Continue fighting, and the Grand Armada will be destroyed. Velshara straightened her spine. You have won today, Admiral Chen. That much is clear. But understand this. You have not defeated the Empire. You have defeated one fleet. The Empire has resources you cannot imagine. I know exactly what resources the Empire has, Chen replied. We have been studying you for 50 years, remember? I know your ship production capacity, your resource distribution, your military academies and training programs. I know how long it would take you to rebuild this fleet. More importantly, I know how many other species are watching this battle right now, waiting to see what happens. Chen leaned forward slightly. Grand Admiral, you are a brilliant strategist. You are losing today not because of any failure on your part, but because we had 50 years to prepare for this exact scenario. If you had ambushed us, you might have won. But we dictated the terms of battle, and that made all the difference. She paused. So I will ask you, how many more Valorian warriors need to die today? How many ships need to be destroyed? The battle is over, Grand Admiral. All that remains is deciding how it ends. Velshara looked at the tactical display one last time. 60% of the Grand Armada was destroyed or disabled. The remainder was surrounded and outgunned. Chen was right. The battle was over. All Valorian ships, this is Grand Admiral Velshara. Cease fire and power down weapons. We are withdrawing from the expanse. The words tasted like ash, but they were necessary. As the human drones pulled back and human ships opened a corridor for the Armada to retreat. Velshera felt the weight of history pressing down on her. She had just surrendered the Grand Armada. The news would reach every corner of the galaxy within days. The Valorian Empire's reputation for invincibility was not just damaged, it was shattered beyond repair. The Treaty of Sol was signed 6 months after the Battle of the Tartarus Expanse. High Chancellor Morvek stood in the human city called Geneva, a place that humans apparently considered neutral ground. The building was old by human standards, barely 2 centuries, but it held meaning for them. This was where they had once tried to build peace among their own nations before they reached the stars. Morvek signed the document with a hand that did not shake, though it took all his willpower to keep it steady. The treaty recognized human sovereignty over 47 star systems. It granted independence to 12 protectorate species who had petitioned for it. It established the Galactic Concordat as a legitimate political body. Most humiliating of all, it required the Valorian Empire to pay reparations for damages caused during the brief war. Ambassador Marcus Webb signed on behalf of humanity, his expression neutral and professional. He offered no gloating words, no triumphant speeches. He simply signed and stepped back. The Empire honors its agreements. Morvek said quietly. We will abide by the terms of this treaty. As will humanity, Marcus replied. We seek no further conflict with the Valorian Empire. It was polite fiction, and both of them knew it. The conflict had already been decided. The Empire had lost not just military battles, but something far more important. It had lost the aura of inevitability that had sustained it for 10,000 years. Across the galaxy, species that had lived under Valorian rule for centuries began to question whether that rule was necessary. If humans could resist, why couldn't others? Independence movements sprang up on a dozen worlds. Most were peaceful, simply petitions to join the Concordat. Some were not. The Empire did not collapse overnight. It was too vast, too entrenched, too ancient to simply fall apart. But it began to contract, slowly and painfully, like a wounded animal curling in on itself. Admiral Sarah Chen retired to Earth 3 years after the treaty was signed. She had been offered a position as the Concordat's supreme military commander, but she declined. She had seen enough war for one lifetime. She bought a small house in the mountains of Colorado, far from cities and spaceports. On clear nights, she would sit on her porch and look up at the stars, thinking about the thousands who had died to secure humanity's freedom. Victory had come at a terrible price. 53,000 human crew members had been killed in the war. Thousands more had died in the construction accidents and experimental failures during the 50 years of preparation. Sometimes, she wondered if it had been worth it. Then she would remember what the alternative had been. Endless servitude. Humanity's potential forever limited by Valorian restrictions. Generations of humans living as subjects, rather than citizens. Yes, it had been worth it. But that did not make the cost any lighter. Ambassador Marcus Webb, now Secretary General of the Galactic Concordat, faced different challenges. Building peace was proving harder than winning war. Species that had been enemies under the Empire's rule now had to learn to coexist as equals. Trade agreements had to be negotiated fairly rather than imposed. Disputes had to be resolved through diplomacy rather than force. The Concordat's headquarters was established on a neutral station built in deep space, far from any single species' territory. Representatives from 23 species filled the council chamber, arguing passionately about everything from shipping routes to cultural exchange programs. It was messy and loud and inefficient. It was also the most beautiful thing Marcus had ever seen. This was what freedom looked like. Not the clean order of empire, but the chaotic creativity of genuine democracy. On Valor Prime, change came slowly but inevitably. The High Council that had ruled for centuries found itself challenged by younger Valorians who had grown up hearing stories of the human war. These young people asked uncomfortable questions. Why had the Empire not seen the humans building their fleet? Because the Empire had grown complacent, relying on assumptions rather than intelligence. Why had the Grand Armada lost? Because the Empire had stopped innovating centuries ago, content to maintain rather than advance. Why had Protectorate species rebelled? Because the Empire had viewed them as subjects rather than partners. A new political movement emerged among young Valorians, calling themselves the Reformists. They argued that the Empire needed to change, or it would continue to decline. Some older Valorians called them traitors. Others listened. High Chancellor Morveck, now in the final years of his life, surprised many by meeting with reformist leaders. He listened to their ideas about voluntary association rather than forced protectorate status, about collaboration rather than dominance, about learning from other species rather than ruling them. You speak of things that would have been unthinkable a generation ago, Morveck said to the young reformist leader, a brilliant strategist named Kixara. The humans made many things thinkable that were once impossible, Kixara replied. They showed us that our assumptions about the natural order were simply that. Assumptions. The universe does not care about our empire. It does not recognize our supposed superiority. If we wish to survive, we must adapt. Morveck studied the young Valorian for a long moment. You may be right, but change of this magnitude will take time. The empire has existed for 10,000 years. It will not transform overnight. One of the ply. 1. The empire has existed being 2. Less men. Ever ply. Then we will work for as many years as necessary, Kixara said. The humans took 50 years to prepare for their freedom. Surely we can take as long to transform our society. 15 years after the treaty, a human survey ship made a discovery in an unexplored region of space. The ship's captain, a woman named Rodriguez, could barely believe what her sensors were showing her. She contacted Earth immediately. Sir, you need to see this, she said to the Exploration Council. We have found ruins. Extensive ruins. Covering multiple star systems. The civilization that built them was incredibly advanced. Far beyond even current human technology. The Exploration Council dispatched a full research team. What they found was both amazing and terrifying. The ruins belonged to a species that called themselves the Dralnath. According to the fragmentary records recovered, they had once controlled a quarter of the galaxy. Their technology had been centuries beyond anything that currently existed, and they had destroyed themselves. Not through disease or natural disaster, but through endless war. They had conquered species after species, building an empire that dwarfed even the Valorians at their height. But conquered species had eventually rebelled. The wars had escalated. Weapons of terrifying power had been used. In the end, the Dralnath had burned their civilization to ash, taking hundreds of other species with them. The records were distributed throughout the Concordat. Representatives from every member species read them in somber silence. Here was a warning from the past, a message left by a dead civilization. Power without wisdom leads to destruction. Ambassador Webb called a special session of the Concordat. When he spoke, his voice was serious. We have seen what lies at the end of the path of conquest. The Dralnath believed, as the Valorians once did, that dominance was the natural order. They conquered until there was nothing left to conquer. Then they fought each other. We must not repeat their mistakes. He paused, looking around the chamber. Humanity did not defeat the Valorian Empire, simply to replace it with a human empire. We fought for the right to determine our own future. That same right belongs to every species in this galaxy. The Concordat exists not to rule, but to mediate. Not to command, but to facilitate cooperation. A Valorian representative, one of the young reformists, stood to speak. The Empire recognizes the wisdom in these words. We propose that the Valorian Empire formally petition to join the Galactic Concordat as an equal member. The chamber erupted in surprised conversation. The Valorian Empire? Joining the Concordat? Not as a dominant power but as one voice among many? It took 6 months of negotiation, but eventually it happened. The Valorian Empire, after 10,000 years of viewing itself as superior to all others. Accepted membership in an organization where it had no special status. On Earth, Admiral Chen heard the news in her mountain home. She smiled slightly, then returned to her garden. The galaxy would continue to change, to evolve, to struggle with the eternal questions of power and freedom and justice. But for the first time in her life, she felt genuine hope that the future would be built on cooperation rather than conquest. The age of empires had not ended completely, but something new had begun. Something messy and imperfect and beautiful. A galaxy learning, slowly and painfully, to see itself not as conquerors and conquered, but as partners in a shared future. It was not the ending anyone had expected. But perhaps, Admiral Chen thought as she tended her roses, it was exactly the ending they all needed.
Galactic Empire in shock. You haven't seen the real human army yet. Part 1. The huge alien ship hung in space above Earth like a dark cloud. Its metal surface gleamed in the sunlight as smaller ships flew around it. On the main deck of the ship, Ambassador Carter Williams adjusted his tie. Today was the day humanity would officially join the Galactic Dominion. Nervous? Asked Susan Johnson, standing beside him. Her uniform showed her rank as military liaison for Earth. Carter nodded. A little. We're about to meet aliens who have been watching us for years. The door slid open with a soft hiss. 3 tall figures entered the room. They had blue skin, 4 arms, and eyes that seemed too large for their narrow faces. The one in the middle wore a gold band across his chest. "Welcome, humans," said the middle alien. "I am High Chancellor Zorthak of the Galactic Dominion. We are pleased to formally welcome Earth into our alliance of 317 species." Carter stepped forward and bowed. "On behalf of Earth, we are honored to join the galactic community." The meeting room was filled with screens showing images of Earth cities, oceans, and mountains. Zorthak moved around the room, looking at each image with interest. "Your planet is beautiful," he said, "rich in resources and life. The Dominion will help you develop your potential." Susan noticed how his eyes lingered on images of Earth's mining operations and water reserves. Something felt off about his interest. Later at the welcome banquet, humans and aliens mingled in a large hall. The ceiling was made of clear material that showed the stars above. Carter talked with alien diplomats while Susan watched from a distance. Lieutenant Commander Alan Miller stood beside her. "What do you think?" he asked quietly. "They're being too nice," Susan said. "Nobody gives this much without wanting something in return." Alan nodded. "I'm going to look around. Cover, for me if anyone asks." He slipped away from the main hall and walked down a quiet corridor. The ship was massive, with halls that seemed to go on forever. He heard voices coming from a room ahead and slowed down. 2 Dominion officers were talking. Alan didn't understand their language, but the translator device in his pocket did. He turned it on and listened. "Primitive weapons and defenses," one voice said. "Their most advanced fighters are barely above atmosphere capable. Their military bases are all visible from orbit," another voice added. "No hidden facilities, no major space fleet. High Chancellor was right. They will be easy to control." Alan's heart beat faster. He moved closer to hear better. "When do we begin the resource extraction?" asked the first voice. "After we've completed our survey. A few more weeks. The humans think they're joining as equals, but they'll soon learn their place." Alan backed away quietly. He needed to tell Susan and Carter what he had heard. On the other side of the ship, Dr. Lisa Green was studying Dominion technology. The aliens had given Earth scientists limited access to their systems as a gesture of goodwill. Lisa was interested in their scanning technology. "This is fascinating," she said to her assistant. "Their scanners use a different part of the spectrum than ours." She looked at the scan results of Earth showing on the alien screen. The map showed cities, military bases, and power plants. All the things the Dominion could see from orbit. But something was missing. Lisa pointed to a spot in the northern hemisphere. "That's strange. They don't show the underground base at Pine Mountain." Her assistant looked confused. Maybe they're being respectful of our secret facilities? Lisa shook her head. No, look at this. She pointed to other missing locations. They don't show any of our deep underground bases or the underwater facilities. They can't see them. She studied the scanner specifications more carefully. Their technology has a blind spot. Our stealth systems block their scans completely. But they don't realize it. They think they're seeing everything. Meanwhile, Carter was still talking with Zorthak. The alien leader seemed particularly interested in Earth's defense capabilities. We've noticed your military is quite small for a planet your size. Zorthak, said Carter, smiled politely. We've been at peace for some time. Our focus has been on development rather than warfare. A wise choice, Zorthak said, though his tone suggested he thought otherwise. The Dominion can offer protection while you develop further. As the night went on, Alan found Susan and whispered what he had overheard. Her face grew serious. We need to warn Earth, she said quietly, but we can't let them know we're suspicious. Doctor, Green found something too, Alan said. There's a lot the Dominion isn't seeing about our capabilities. Susan nodded. Keep playing along. I'll find a way to send a secure message home. The next day, Carter and Susan were invited to tour the Dominion flagship. Zorthak showed them the bridge where alien officers worked at control stations. This ship is just one of our smaller diplomatic vessels, Zorthak said. Our actual military fleet is much more impressive. Susan noticed how he emphasized their military power. It was clearly meant to intimidate. When they returned to their quarters, Carter found a message from Earth. He read it with Susan and Alan. They're mobilizing our hidden forces, Carter said quietly. If the Dominion is planning something, we'll be ready. Dr. Green joined them, bringing data from her research. They can't detect our stealth technology, she explained. They think they've seen all our military capabilities, but they've only seen what we've allowed them to see. That night, while the humans slept, High Chancellor Zorthak met with his military commanders on the bridge. The humans are weaker than we expected, he said. Their primitive technology and small military will make them easy to control. He pointed to a hologram of Earth's moon. They have a small base here. Taking it will show them our power and break their will to resist. When do we attack, High Chancellor? Asked the fleet commander. Zorthak's four eyes narrowed. Tomorrow. They won't expect it. Begin preparations. Unknown to him, a small device hidden in the room transmitted his words to Alan's quarters. The humans listened in silence. So much for peaceful first contact, Carter said grimly. They think they know what we're capable of, Susan replied. They have no idea what's waiting for them. As the Dominion prepared for their surprise attack, deep beneath Earth's surface and oceans, doors that hadn't opened in decades began to slide apart. Lights came on in massive underground hangars. Soldiers who had trained in secret for years checked their advanced weapons. The real human army was waking up. Galactic Empire in shock. You haven't seen the real human army yet. Part 2. The attack came at dawn, Earth time. Without warning, Dominion warships appeared above the moon. Their weapons fired bright beams that cut through the dome of Luna. Base like it was paper. Air rushed out into space. Alarms blared as people ran for emergency shelters. Commander Olivia Wright was in the control center when the first blast hit. The room shook and screens went dark. She grabbed the emergency. Radio. All personnel evacuate to emergency bunkers. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. She watched the screens that still worked. Dominion ships surrounded the moon base. Some landed and alien soldiers poured out. Commander, what do we do? Asked a young officer beside her. Olivia's face was calm, but her eyes were hard. We follow the plan. Make it look real. She pressed a button under her desk. A hidden screen lit up showing a countdown. 10 minutes to complete evacuation. Get to your station. Remember, let them think they've won. On Earth, news of the attack spread quickly. People watched in horror as live feeds from the moon went dark. Government leaders called emergency meetings. The Dominion sent a message to all Earth communications networks. High Chancellor Zorthak's face appeared on screens worldwide. People of Earth, your moon base has fallen. This was necessary to show you the power of the Dominion. Surrender now, and no more lives will be lost. Resist, and your planet will suffer the same fate. Deep beneath a mountain in North America, Admiral John Russell met with the United Earth Defense Council. The room was filled with military leaders from around the world. A large screen showed the destruction of Luna Base. "They hit us exactly where we expected," John said. "Luna Base was mostly evacuated 2 days ago. Commander Wright and a skeleton crew stayed behind to make it look real." An older woman at the table frowned. "We lost good people up there, Admiral." "Yes, General Patterson. And we mourn them. But their sacrifice has given us an opportunity." John pointed to the screen. "The Dominion thinks they've seen our best defense. They believe we're weak and will surrender." He pressed a button, and the screen changed to show a map of Earth with hidden bases marked in red. "This is actually our chance. They don't know about our real forces. Let them believe they've won for now." In a small apartment in Mexico City, Frank Martinez was watching the news when his phone rang. The caller ID showed a number he hadn't seen in years. "Martinez," he answered. "Code Phoenix soldier. Transport arriving in 30 minutes. Frank stood up straight. "Understood." He went to his closet and moved aside clothes to reveal a metal box. Inside was a uniform he thought he'd never wear again. As he put it on, memories of his time in Special Forces came flooding back. 30 minutes later, a black car stopped outside his building. Frank got in without a word. The driver handed him a tablet. "Your team is assembled, Captain. Mission briefing is on this." Frank read the details of his mission. His team would sneak aboard a Dominion command ship and plant tracking devices. It was dangerous, maybe impossible, but he had trained for missions like this his whole life. Meanwhile, Ambassador Carter Williams was taken to a meeting with Zorthak on the Dominion flagship. Susan Johnson and Alan Miller went with him. "Your attack on our moon base was unprovoked," Carter said, his voice steady despite his anger. Zorthak spread his forearms in a gesture that might have been apology, but his eyes showed no regret. "It was necessary to show you reality. The Dominion is not your equal. We are your superiors." He pressed a button, and a hologram appeared showing Earth surrounded by Dominion warships. "We can target any city on your planet, but we prefer not to waste resources. Accept your place as a protected territory under Dominion rule, and your people will be spared." Carter kept his face neutral. "We need time to discuss your terms with Earth's leaders." "You have 3 Earth days," Zorthak said. "No more." After they left the meeting, Susan whispered to Carter, "He's confident. Too confident." "Good," Carter replied. "The more confident they are, the more surprised they'll be." On Earth, Dr. Lisa Green was working with a team of scientists in a hidden facility deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. The base was built into the seafloor, undetectable by Dominion scanners. "Their ships use a form of quantum linking for communication," she explained to her team. "If we can tap into it, we'll know every move they plan to make." One of the scientists looked worried. "Even if we can, they outnumber us. Their technology is advanced." Lisa smiled. "Is it? They think so. But they haven't seen what we've been building down here for the past 50 years. She pressed her hand to a scanner, and a wall slid open. Behind it was a massive hangar filled with sleek ships unlike any publicly known Earth vessel. These fighters can match anything they have. Across the world, similar scenes played out. In the Sahara Desert, huge doors hidden under sand opened to reveal underground bases. In Antarctica, heating systems melted the ice-covering hangar doors. In the depths of the Amazon rainforest, trees that were actually disguised access points moved aside. Earth was waking up. General Kate Patterson stood in the command center of the North American underground complex. Screens showed feeds from hidden bases worldwide. "Lazarus Protocol is active," reported an officer. "All sleeper units report ready status." Kate nodded. "Begin Phase 1, covert deployment only. Nothing visible from orbit." In space, Frank Martinez and his team approached a Dominion command ship in a small shuttle. They wore spacesuits designed to be invisible to Dominion sensors. "Remember," Frank told his team, Plant the trackers and get out. Don't engage unless absolutely necessary. They attached to the hull of the enemy ship and cut their way in through a maintenance hatch. Moving silently through service tunnels, they placed quantum trackers at key points around the ship. "Last one," whispered a team member as he placed a tracker near the ship's engine room. Suddenly, a door opened. A Dominion engineer walked in. Frank pulled his team member into shadows. The alien looked around, then left. "Too close," Frank said. "Let's go." They made it back to their shuttle and detached from the ship undetected. As they flew away, Frank activated the trackers. Now Earth would be able to monitor the Dominion fleet's movements. In the mountain base, Admiral Russell watched as data from the trackers came in. "Good work, Martinez. Now we know every ship they have in our system." He turned to General Patterson. "How long until we're ready?" 24 hours, she answered. "All units will be in position by then." John nodded. "Good. Carter's keeping them talking. They think we're afraid and considering surrender." He looked at the map showing Dominion ships positioned above Earth's major cities. "Let them think that for one more day. Then we'll show them what humanity is really capable of." Galactic Empire in shock. You haven't seen the real human army yet. Part 3. The Dominion ships filled the skies above Earth's major cities. People looked up in fear as the massive vessels blocked the sun like metal clouds. Troops had landed in some cities, setting up control points. They carried weapons unlike anything humans had publicly used before. But deep below the surface, Earth was far from defeated. Dr. Stephen Cooper stood in a control room 1 mile beneath the desert. Around him, technicians worked at stations monitoring hundreds of satellites. These weren't ordinary satellites. They had been placed in orbit years ago, disguised as space junk or hidden with technology that made them invisible to standard scans. "Bring the network online," Stephen ordered. Full activation. A technician pressed a series of buttons. On the main screen, dots of light began to appear around Earth. Each dot represented a stealth satellite now activated. "The network is live," Stephen announced. "Fleet Command now has full tactical awareness." He opened a secure channel to Admiral Russell. "Prometheus Division is operational, Admiral. You now have eyes on every Dominion ship in our system." In his mountain base, John Russell watched as detailed information about the alien fleet appeared on his screens. He could see their positions, weapon systems, shield strengths, everything. "Thank you, Dr. Cooper. Begin Phase 2. In a hangar, deep beneath the Atlantic Ocean, Lieutenant Kelly Martinez climbed into the cockpit of her fighter. It looked nothing like the aircraft the Dominion had seen. This was a quantum-shifted vessel, capable of appearing and disappearing from normal space. Kelly checked her systems. Around her, 20 other pilots did the same. They were the first squadron to be revealed. The tip of the spear. "Phoenix Squadron, this is Phoenix Lead," she said into her communicator. "Mission is go. Remember, hit and fade. Don't let them track you." The hangar roof opened, revealing the dark waters above. The fighters rose as one, their hulls glowing slightly as they passed through the ocean without making a splash. Their engines made almost no sound as they accelerated into the sky. In orbit, a Dominion supply convoy moved slowly toward Earth. The ships were loaded with equipment for the occupation forces. Their escorts scanned space around them but detected nothing unusual. Suddenly, Kelly's squadron appeared less than a mile away. Their weapons fired, cutting through the shields of the supply ships like they weren't even there. Before the Dominion could respond, the Earth fighters vanished again. On the command ship, Dominion officers rushed to report to Admiral Krell. "Unknown vessels attacked the supply convoy," one said, his forearms moving in confusion. They appeared, out of nowhere, fired, and disappeared. Krell's large eyes narrowed. "Impossible. Our scans show no human vessels capable of such actions." On the diplomatic front, Ambassador Carter Williams continued his meetings with High Chancellor Zorthak. The talks had gone on for hours, with Carter asking questions about every detail of the surrender terms. "Your time is almost up, Ambassador," Zorthak said, growing impatient. "Earth must submit to Dominion rule by tomorrow." Carter looked at the alien leader calmly. "We need to clarify the terms regarding our military assets. What military assets? Zorthak laughed. Your moon base is destroyed. Your primitive ships are no match for our fleet. What military could you possibly have that concerns us? Carter smiled slightly. High Chancellor, you haven't seen the real human army yet. As if on cue, alarms began to sound throughout the Dominion flagship. An officer rushed in. High Chancellor, we are under attack. Earth forces are hitting our positions worldwide. Zorthak stood up, his blue skin turning almost white. What Earth forces? Show me. On screens around the room, images appeared of hidden bases opening across the planet. In the Himalayan mountains, huge doors slid apart, revealing advanced battle platforms. In the Amazon rainforest, trees moved aside as missile launchers rose from underground. Off the coast of Australia, the ocean churned as massive structures emerged from the depths. Around the planet, what the Dominion had thought was Earth's full military force was revealed to be just a small public fraction. The real army had been hidden, waiting. General Kate Patterson stood in her command center watching as reports came in from around the world. Every hidden base was now active. Forces that had trained in secret for decades were engaging the enemy. Status. Report, she ordered. All units deployed and engaging, General. Orbital defense grid powering up. Above Earth, satellites that the Dominion had dismissed as weather or communication equipment suddenly came alive. Energy beams connected them, forming a web around the planet. Dominion ships that tried to pass through the web found their systems, failing. In his flagship, Admiral Krell watched in horror as human forces appeared everywhere at once. How is this possible? Our intelligence said they had no significant military. A science officer looked up from his station. Sir, it appears they have technology that blocks our scans. We never saw their real installations. On Earth, Frank. Martinez led a team to retake a city center held by Dominion troops. His soldiers carried weapons that seemed to phase through alien shields. Keep moving, he ordered. Remember your training. His soldiers moved with precision that shocked the alien forces. These weren't the disorganized defenders the Dominion had expected. These were elite troops who had prepared specifically to fight this enemy. High Chancellor Zorthak turned to Carter, his forearms trembling with rage. You deceived us. This was planned. Carter's face showed no emotion. You attacked us without provocation. Did you think we would be unprepared? Earth has known about the Dominion for generations. We've been watching your conquests, learning your tactics. In orbit, Kelly's squadron made another attack run, this time against a Dominion cruiser. Their weapons targeted specific points, disabling the ship without destroying it. Target engines only, Kelly ordered. We want them disabled, not destroyed. As her fighter passed the cruiser's bridge, she saw Dominion officers staring in shock. She couldn't help but smile as her squadron disappeared. Again, Dr. Lisa Green worked with her team to coordinate the planetary defense. Data from the quantum trackers that Frank had planted helped them predict Dominion movements. They're trying to regroup near Mars, she said, pointing to a display. Redirect the asteroid belt defense platforms to cut them off. In space, what? The Dominion had thought were simply asteroids suddenly changed course. They were actually heavily armed fortresses disguised as space rocks. They moved to block the Dominion's retreat path. Admiral Russell received reports from all fronts. The Dominion fleet is in disarray, an officer reported. They're calling for reinforcements, but our jamming systems are blocking most of their long-range communications. John nodded. Keep the pressure on. It's time to show them exactly who they're dealing with. He opened a channel to all Earth forces. This is Admiral Russell. Phase 3 is now active. I repeat, Phase 3 is active. Show them what humanity is truly capable of. Across the solar system, more hidden forces revealed themselves. The true scale of Earth's military might was finally unveiled, and the Dominion forces could only watch in shock as their invasion plans fell apart. Galactic Empire in shock. You haven't seen the real human army yet. Part 4 Admiral Krell paced the bridge of his command ship. Reports of human attacks came from everywhere in the solar system. His officers worked frantically at their stations, trying to coordinate a defense. How could we have missed this, he demanded. Where did all these forces come from? A science officer looked up from his screen. Sir, it appears the humans have technology that hides their installations from our scans. They've been preparing for this encounter for years. Krell slammed his fist on a console. Contact High Chancellor Zorthak. We need reinforcements from the home fleet. The communications officer tried repeatedly. Sir, I cannot reach the flagship. Something is blocking our transmissions. On Earth, massive carriers rose from beneath the ocean floors. Each one held hundreds of fighters and thousands of troops. They had been hidden for decades, waiting for this moment. Around the planet, other forces emerged from mountains, deserts, and ice caps. In her laboratory, Dr. Lisa Green finished her analysis of Dominion shield frequencies. She had been working on it since first examining their technology during the initial contact. I've got it, she said to her team. Their shields operate on a rotating frequency, but there's a pattern we can exploit. She sent the data to Earth's forces. All units, update your weapons with these frequency codes. Their shields will no longer protect them. In orbit, Kelly Martinez received the update. Phoenix Squadron, upload the new codes to your targeting systems. Her fighters swooped toward a Dominion battleship. Their weapons cut through the enemy shields like they weren't even there. The battleship's engines failed, and it drifted helplessly. Colonel, Ryan Davis led an assault team toward a Dominion communications hub they had set up in what was once New York City. His soldiers moved silently through the streets, using technology that made them nearly invisible to Dominion sensors. Remember, we need their communication codes intact, he told his team. Disable, don't destroy. They reached the building where the aliens had set up their equipment. Ryan signaled and his team moved in from all sides. The Dominion guards never saw them coming. Within minutes, the hub was secured. Begin the download, Ryan ordered. A technician connected to the alien computers. We're in, downloading their tactical data now. This scene repeated around the world as human forces captured key Dominion installations. Each capture gave Earth more information about enemy plans and capabilities. High Chancellor Zorthak was no longer laughing. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as his invasion force fell apart. Next to him, Ambassador Carter Williams and Susan Johnson waited calmly. How is this possible? Zorthak asked, his voice shaking. Your species was supposed to be primitive, easy to conquer. You made a mistake, Carter said. You judged us by what you could see. You never considered what we might be hiding. A communication screen lit up. A stern human face appeared. It was Admiral John Russell. This is Admiral Russell, Supreme Commander of Earth's United Defense Force. I'm addressing the leadership of the Galactic Dominion. Zorthak stared at the screen. Who are you? We were told Earth had no unified military command. Your intelligence was flawed, John replied. What you saw was our peacetime economy and our public defense forces. Merely the tip of the iceberg, he gestured, and the screen split to show images of Earth's hidden military might now revealed. Advanced ships, weapons, and bases that had remained concealed until now. For generations we've been watching the stars. We detected your scout ships long before you made official contact. We knew about your empire's habit of conquering worlds that seemed vulnerable. Zorthak's 4 arms dropped to his sides. Impossible. Our stealth technology is the most advanced in the galaxy. John smiled slightly. Not anymore. Earth has been preparing for this day for over a century. In space, the Dominion made one final, desperate push. Admiral Krell gathered all his remaining ships for a massive assault on Earth. It was their last chance to break through and turn the tide. All ships, target their defense grid, he ordered. Concentrate fire on these coordinates. The Dominion fleet fired everything they had, but as their weapons approached Earth, they encountered defense systems beyond anything they had imagined possible. Gravity wells that bent energy beams away from their targets, temporal distortion fields that slowed incoming projectiles to a crawl, and quantum disruptors that simply made attacks cease to exist. General Kate Patterson watched from her command center as the defense grid handled the assault. They're throwing everything they have at us, she said, and it's not enough. Should we counterattack? Asked her second-in-command. Kate shook her head. No. Follow the plan. Disable, don't destroy. Earth forces moved methodically, targeting Dominion vessels with precision strikes that disabled their weapons and engines while leaving the ships intact. One by one, the alien vessels went dark, drifting helplessly in space. Ambassador Carter Williams stood on the bridge of the human flagship Defiance alongside Lieutenant Commander Alan Miller. Through the view screen, they watched as the Dominion fleet was systematically disabled. We could destroy them all, Alan said quietly. Carter shook his head. We don't need to annihilate them. We just need to show them who they're really dealing with. Humans aren't conquerors, we're defenders. Across the solar system, the battle turned decidedly in Earth's favor. The Dominion forces that had arrived so confidently were now either captured, disabled, or in retreat. Frank Martinez led a team to secure a landing zone for Dominion escape pods. Many alien soldiers were abandoning their ships, preferring surrender to continued fighting. Set up the containment field here, Frank ordered. Remember, they're scared. No unnecessary force. His soldiers created a safe area for the aliens to land. Medical teams stood ready to treat any injuries. This was not just a military victory for humanity, but a moral one. They would show mercy even to those who had invaded them. On the Dominion flagship, High Chancellor Zorthak finally accepted defeat. How could we have been so wrong about your species? You saw what we wanted you to see, Susan Johnson replied. A lesson for the future. Never judge a civilization only by its surface. Admiral Russell opened a channel to all Earth forces. All units, this is command. Phase 4 is now in effect. Secure all Dominion assets and prepare for diplomatic resolution. The battle for Earth was over. The planet had revealed its true strength, and the galaxy would never see humans the same way again. Galactic Empire in shock. You haven't seen the real human army yet. Part 5. 1 week after the battle, the Dominion fleet hung disabled in Earth orbit. Their ships were intact but powerless, surrounded by human vessels that had emerged from hiding places throughout the solar system. News of the Dominion's defeat spread across their empire. For the first time in thousands of years, the mighty Galactic Dominion had failed to conquer a world. On several planets under Dominion control, subject species began to whisper about resistance. If humans could stand against the Empire, perhaps they could too. Admiral John Russell prepared to meet with the Galactic Council, the true governing body behind the Dominion's expansion. His shuttle approached the massive council station that had arrived at the edge of the solar system. Carter Williams and Dr. Lisa Green accompanied him. They're worried, Carter said, looking at data on his tablet. We're the first civilization to defeat them in over 500 years. John nodded. Good, they should be worried, but we're not here to threaten them. We're here to establish a new relationship. Their shuttle docked at the station. Guards led them to a large chamber where 7 alien beings waited. Each looked different, representing the founding species of the Dominion. High Chancellor Zorthak stood to one side, his posture showing his shame at his failure. Welcome, humans, said the central figure, a tall being with golden skin. I am Prime Counselor Vex. We wish to discuss the misunderstanding that occurred in your system. John stepped forward. It was not a misunderstanding, it was an unprovoked attack, but we are willing to move forward. The council members looked at each other. They were not used to such direct speech. How did your world hide such military power? Asked another counselor. Our scans showed only primitive defenses. Humanity has remained hidden for centuries, John revealed. We detected your scouts long before official first contact and prepared accordingly. Earth wasn't an isolated world. We were watching, waiting, and preparing. The council chamber went silent. Finally, Prime Counselor Vex spoke again. You knew of us before we found you? Lisa Green stepped forward. We detected your first scout ships nearly 100 years ago. They thought they were undetectable, but we found them. She displayed holographic images showing Dominion scout ships that had visited Earth's solar system decades earlier. When we realized you were studying us, we decided to study you too. We learned about your empire, your conquests, your tactics. Everything. The council looked disturbed. Their entire strategy of expansion relied on finding unsuspecting worlds. Carter spoke next. We could have revealed ourselves then, but we chose to wait, to prepare, to build our defenses in secret while letting you see only what we wanted you to see. On Earth, celebrations continued in cities worldwide. The Dominion troops who had landed were now prisoners, being treated well but under heavy guard. Frank Martinez oversaw one of the detention centers. They're still in shock, he told his daughter Kelly when she visited. They can't believe they lost. Kelly nodded. You should have seen their faces when our fighters appeared out of nowhere. They thought they had the most advanced technology in the galaxy. They did, Frank said with a smile, until they met us. Meanwhile, Dr. Stephen Cooper and his team at the Prometheus Division were studying captured Dominion technology. Their FTL drive is interesting, he told his colleagues. But their stealth systems are far behind ours. No wonder they never detected our hidden bases. A technician looked up from a console. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Admiral Russell at the council station. The main screen lit up, showing John's face. Dr. Cooper, begin Phase 5. It's time for humanity to take its place in the galaxy. Stephen nodded. Yes, Admiral. He turned to his team. Open the vault, all of it. In another part of the facility, massive doors that hadn't been opened in generations slowly began to slide apart. What lay behind them would change the course of galactic history. Back at the council station, John continued his meeting with the Galactic Council. We propose a new framework for relations between our civilizations, he said. One based on mutual respect rather than dominance. Dr. Green displayed a hologram showing a new type of alliance structure. Our scientists have developed this model based on studying thousands of Earth cultures. It allows for cooperation without requiring submission. The council studied the proposal with interest. Some seemed resistant, but others nodded in approval. And, if we refuse? Asked one counselor. John's expression remained calm. That would be unfortunate. We prefer peace. But make no mistake, Earth can defend itself, and we will help others do the same if necessary. The Prime Counselor raised a hand. We will consider your proposal. The Dominion has existed for millennia. Change does not come easily to us. Change rarely does, Carter replied, but it comes nonetheless. As the meeting ended, the humans returned to their shuttle. Looking out the window, they saw a fleet of Dominion ships approaching the station. Reinforcements that had arrived, too, late. They still outnumber us, Lisa noted. John nodded. In ships, yes, but not in innovation or determination, and they know it now. Their shuttle returned to Earth, landing at the new Global Defense Headquarters built into Mount Everest. General Kate Patterson met them on the landing pad. How did it go? She asked. As expected, John replied. They're afraid, curious, and reluctant to change, but they'll come around. Kate smiled. They don't have much choice, not after what we showed them. Later that evening, Frank and Kelly Martinez attended a celebration in Washington, D.C. Soldiers and civilians gathered to honor those who had defended Earth. Do you think they'll try again? Kelly asked her father as they watched fireworks light up the sky. Frank shook his head. Not after what they've seen, and they still haven't seen everything. He glanced toward the moon, where construction had already begun on a new, much larger base to replace the one destroyed in the initial attack. On a space station orbiting Jupiter, Ambassador Williams and Admiral Russell met one last time before Carter would return to diplomatic duties. The Council has accepted our initial terms, Carter said, looking at a message on his tablet. They've agreed to recognize Earth as an independent power, not subject to Dominion authority. John nodded. It's a start. They looked out the window at a sight few humans had ever seen. A vast fleet of Earth ships assembled near Jupiter. These vessels were far more advanced than even the ones used to defeat the Dominion. We revealed only what we needed to, John noted. Earth still has its secrets, Carter smiled. And those secrets will help ensure peace. Not just peace, John replied. A new order. One where no species threatens another as the Dominion once did. As they spoke, Orders went out to Earth's hidden fleets. The next phase of human expansion into the stars had begun. Not as conquerors, but as peacekeepers, the galaxy was about to change forever.